Hey guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing the Rithmatist by Brandon Sanderson, which I just read this past week. Set in an alternative, like, United States type place called the United Isles. You can get a kind of good look at what that looks like here. This is a map of the United Isles with all 60 isle state things separated from one another. This story kind of centers around this school called Rithmatist, an expensive academy that teaches both Rithmatists and non-Rithmatists. And Rithmatists are these special people who are chosen by this sort of ambiguous, unspecific, godlike figure called the Master to be endowed with these powers that allow them to use chalk to make certain things come to life. And they use this power to duel and battle and protect others. They use it to fight off these things called wild chalkings that exist and are kind of coming out of this tower right in the center of the Isles in a place called Nebraska, which is Nebraska without an A at the end. It's like right there in the middle, and they come out of the tower, and the Rithmatists have to go to Nebraska, to the Tower of Nebraska, and fight off the wild chalking so they don't threaten the rest of the United Isles. So basically, Rithmatists are trained at Rithmatist and schools like Rithmatist to become better Rithmatists, to be warriors against these mysterious chalkings that are threatening to overtake the United Isles. So Rithmatist is open to mostly Rithmatists, but also non-Rithmatists, but it's a really expensive school to go to. And the non-Rithmatists are usually like the sons and daughters of really important people in the government and stuff, and just families that can afford to send their children there. The main character, Joel, however, is just really lucky to be going there. His deceased father was a chalk maker, one respected by the school's Principal York, and is allowed to go to Rithmatist because of this fact, and because of the chalk making Joel's father did for the school. His mother is a cleaning lady that has to work her butt off to just make sure that they aren't poor while Joel is attending school. Joel loves Rithmatics. He's not a Rithmatist himself, but he is obsessed with it. He loves the idea of it, and he wants to study it and become an expert on it. He sneaks into Rithmatics classes to kind of learn everything that he can about it, and he sneaks into this one professor's class most frequently, and that is Professor Fitch, who is this sort of very nervous, very anxious, sort of awkward, older Rithmatist. Joel is so obsessed about learning about Rithmatics and going to the classes that he's failing his own regular classes, despite being really intelligent and having a lot of potential. Because of his interest in Rithmatics, though, and because it's kind of the reason why he's not doing so well in his other classes, Principal York allows him to kind of be the assistant to Professor Fitch over the summer. And meanwhile, there's this girl named Melody who is a Rithmatist and is a really not very good one. She's failing her classes, and she is assigned to Professor Fitch to be tutored by him, and her and Joel kind of develop this sort of very weird friendship. Also, Fitch is investigating these series of Rithmatist disappearances. All of the best Rithmatist students at Rithmatist are beginning to be kidnapped, being taken by this mysterious figure that they're calling the Scribbler because of his eccentric Rithmatist style and his out-of-control chalkings. Basically, the majority of the story is Joel trying to help in any way he can to help Professor Fitch discover what is going on, what is happening to the Rithmatists, while he himself is trying to study Rithmatists through Professor Fitch at the same time, and while Melody is trying to become a better Rithmatist. They're trying to figure out who exactly is the Scribbler, what their motives are, and how it could be possible to kidnap so many Rithmatists when the Rithmatists should be able to defend themselves against stuff like this. Anyway, I really like the story a lot. It's written very much as a sort of in-between middle grade and YA, but it's really enjoyable and fun. Some of the characters can be a little stereotypical. For example, this character called Professor Nalazar, a sort of evil teacher that apparently has more to him than meets the eye, and whom most people trust, but Joel believes to be a bad guy. But then there are other characters like Joel, Melody, and Professor Fitch that are really unique, have really great personalities, really unique personalities, and either way they're well written. Joel has a really interesting personality. Sometimes he can be quite a jerk, and other times you realize that he really overall seems to mean well, and he's kind of in the stage of figuring out what direction his life is going to go in, and it feels really natural for him to be the way that he is. Melody can be pretty annoying, but in a good way, like a well-written way. She isn't like a stereotypical girl character, and she doesn't exist just to be a love interest to Joel. And really, there isn't a love relationship going on between them. Fitch at times kind of seems like he'd be like the normal mentor that's in stories like this, but at the same time he goes against that quite a bit. He's very non-confrontational and anxious about everything, very smart but not good in high stress situations. And this world itself is just really well built. Brandon Sanderson is really good at slowly working bits and pieces of his world throughout his stories and including it in the story. We learn a lot about the history of this world, the politics, and a ton about Rithmatics. And Rithmatics itself is crazy interesting, completely based in geometry, which is awesome. Geometry is like my favorite math in school. I really love learning about it. There's like a ton of illustrations that kind of give you ideas of how Rithmatics is supposed to work, and the stuff like happens before each chapter, and it's really interesting to learn about. And the illustrations just kind of enhance the story. Melody is really good at drawing chalkings, the like creatures that go out and attack things, and it's really great to see those inside the illustrations. And overall everything in the story is just really fun. It really felt like everything belonged, and the overall presentation of the story and the illustrations really worked together. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5. It's not like it's groundbreaking or anything, it's not Brandon Sanderson's best work, but it's a really solid story with a really interesting world and really interesting magic system written for a younger audience, and I really enjoyed reading it. And yeah, that's all I have to say. If you've read this book, definitely tell me what you thought. Anyway, I hope you guys like this review, and I'll see you very soon with more. Thanks for watching.